Guys, welcome back to the 10-8 Fightcast. Still McGrath, Trevor Hayes here, and today we're going to be breaking down and taking a look at an upcoming card this weekend here in the Carolinas. Fight for It 13, and we're also going to be talking about UFC 273, Volkanovski versus Korean Zombie. So last week we were talking a little bit about this card. Trevor, of course, not going to be on commentary. Got some fighters on the card.
Got to do my job.
Yes.
Yeah.
But this is a very exciting showcase for amateur MMA and kickboxing in the Carolinas. Definitely Fight for It is one of those shows where they like to go back to the well on fighters that they've already had on the show. They like to take people that they know can fight, that they know what they're capable of, that they know what kind of crowds they bring in.
They do a great show, and they're great. They're easy to work with.
Definitely.
And they give a reason for people to come back and fight for them.
Yes.
You know, and it's even like what's nice is that they also give fighters a lot of content to work with before and after their fight. Which so I'll say this: like as a coach, I tell people like, hey, you need to focus on you.
Right.
And to see Fight for It kind of help fighters keep their focus on themselves by creating content around them is a great move to see from some amateur show. Like that's something you don't really see that often.
It's a very like fighter forward show.
Yeah, exactly. They really want to make a showcase of their matchups. And like because if you know Marcel and these guys, what do they love? Fights and everything about it. And they love that, even though it's grassroots, like it's still the world to them.
It's also the only promotion team that I know of where every single member of the promotion team is actively training martial arts.
Yes.
Like every day.
They've all fought.
Right.
Like they've all helped in other promotions. They all fight in other promotions as well. Like they all just kind of also do it.
Leslie just had a fight last week.
Just had a fight, yeah.
So, lots of cool, interesting matchups on here. One thing I didn't want to talk too much about the kids' matchups, obviously, but we do have some returning familiar faces. We'll be seeing Joseph Mini Money Snyder again. This is like the third time we've called a fight of his now.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, is this kid ever going to be older than 16? I mean, he's still a youth, and he does not look the part at all.
No.
He's just like a shredded kid that's like huge for some reason. But yeah, looking forward to seeing him fight again. Zion Hill, you know him, right?
Yeah, he's out of Walker Vivian's camp, Carolina Kickboxing Academy.
He just finished someone. Tell that story about Walker.
Okay, so this kid Zion, if you know Walker, he is an amazingly technical coach. He's also also like a good dude, and he attracts other good dudes around him, and like people that are very just like interesting-minded people. And Zion Hill, as a teenager, is one of those kids where like he was very upfront with Walker about like, man, I need some motivation to fight. He's like, man, I want to do this, but like, where are those rewards? Like, yeah, it's cool to beat somebody up. Like, what? And I guess like it came on the topic like, hey, man, I will like Walker put down a wager of like, if you finish him, I will fork over some cash. And that apparently got Zion in gear, and then came out and stopped the kid with 2 back-to-back like body shot knockdowns. And then Walker had to pay out some money to that kid. And even Walker, like, I remember seeing Zion come back to the locker room, and Walker with, like, this look on his face, and I was like, oh, man, like, you seem happy, but you lost at the same time, bro. So, yeah, Zion Hill, really talented, young, explosive kid. He's definitely, like, I forget that he's a teenager, because he will carry himself around, like, he is a kid, but when you stand next to him, he will stand amongst adults like an adult. And it kind of threw me off. So when I see kids like that in fighting, I'm like, that's someone to keep an eye on.
Yeah,
like, that's someone that you can see fighting like into being an adult.
Well, it's just so crazy how many people are coming into this now with a lifetime of combat sports experience under their belt. Mm-hmm. And that sounds like a kid who definitely has his eyes set on that kind of goal.
Yes. I think he's one of those kids he'll be doing martial arts for life.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But when we do get to the adult portion of the card, you're going to be opening up the card with Hunter Perez. Taking on Ruben Bermudez of Atlantic MMA.
Oh, yeah. Wait, is that the first kickboxing?
Are you reading it from the bottom?
Oh, is that?
KB 170. Oh, no, sorry. I've skipped over like 2.
Oh, you did? I was like, oh, wait a second. No, because I see like Danny Zaya and then...
That's okay. Yeah, that's my fault.
I was like, oh, wait, did I? Okay.
No, that's definitely
you skipped the line. You were excited to talk about Hunter.
I was. That's okay. We can talk about Danny Zaya, of course.
Yeah.
All right, so the main card will be opening up with Danny Zaya of Jimo taking on Vamil Johnson of Matrix MMA. That Matrix MMA team out of the Triad region of NC is putting their name out there. And they're coming up big on these Fight For It shows. Lots of guys. Jonathan Freeman out of there, of course. But yeah, Danny Zay is a veteran of this Carolina fight scene nowadays.
He is. He's a grappler that transitioned into MMA, and now this is his second or third.
Yeah.
No, this is his second kickboxing match.
I believe
he's 2-0 in MMA.
He fought the coach. I remember that a long time ago, right?
I think so, yeah.
At Lightning Strikes.
Yeah.
I think that was his debut.
And so, yeah, but now he's really sticking to the kickboxing aspect, which is, and this matchup for Danny is a good matchup. I can feel this definitely being more of an actual kickboxing matchup. Yeah. His last fight, he fought our buddy Guac, and Guac is a more of a Muay Thai style guy.
That was a good fight.
It was a great fight, but you can see Danny was kind of like, "Oh, I'm much more into this punch kick stuff." Like,
right.
I think you see if it was going to be a full Muay Thai fight, Danny probably would have had a bad time.
Right.
And so with this matchup, I think that this card is going to be a bit more in each other's comfort zones. The guys out of Matrix have some great striking.
Yeah, they do.
They fight long very well, which is interesting. Which, I mean, like, hey, if you're getting ready for a kickboxing match, how do you want to fight? Long. Mm-hmm. They understand fighting in short, tight pocket punches, having knees in tight. So I feel like these two complement each other very well for a fun kickboxing match to start off the adults.
I think, outside of what we already mentioned about Danny, his biggest strength is that he's just such a dog.
He is. He will come forward.
Such a fighter's fighter. I mean, he is... he reminds me of, like, the local level Robbie Lawler in the way that he's just, like, always coming forward, always throwing bombs. And that's really benefited him in both outings that I've seen him undertake. Like, obviously, in the last fight, it was a draw. Was it a draw, or did Guac win that one?
I think it was a draw.
Yeah, I think it was a draw.
Because Guac got a point taken away?
Yes, that's right. Yes, so he would have won had he not had that point deducted. But to take someone with as much Muay Thai and striking only experience as Gornell, I mean, that's a statement to how much he's been improving in this realm since he wanted
to be in there. Right? Like, it should. It was like, man, that's going to show if he wants to be in a striking fight or not. He's doing another one after it, so he wants to be in there.
And then going on down the card, we've got a couple of debuts for super heavyweights. Then we're talking about Hunter Perez
and David Fitzgerald.
The Southern Scrap Nation.
Yeah, Daniel Jonas is like a good kid, and it's been funny because I've seen him bounce around the scene. He was in the Wilmington scene for a while. I think he's been out to Asheville for a while with American Top Team guys. Now he's found his roots in Charlotte. I think he had some time in South Carolina. He's been to Thailand. Like, and he really is trying to make, being a striking coach his full-time thing. He has a really dope setup at his house. I am super jealous of Daniel's setup at his house. I'm like, damn, that's a good mat room. And he also teaches out of the Charlotte Jiu-Jitsu Academy as well now. And Fitzgerald is one of his first students. He's transitioned to fighters from scratch. And it's been cool to see him make that process of it. Like, it's really dope. And he's fighting. And he and I talked about it. I was like, hey man, I know we're buddies, we're in the same fight scene, and sometimes we fight each other in the same fight scene. He's like, oh, okay, cool, man. And he's like, I'll see you there. And I was like, yeah, cool. And I like the matchup. I really do, yeah.
You're obviously very, very familiar with Hunter. What do you think his biggest strengths as a fighter are?
His pressure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's also just his IQ as a martial artist and his wanting to become a better fighter. Hunter is very goal-oriented, and he's very direct about it. He's like, I'm going to keep getting better in all aspects because that's what a martial artist does. And he and I, we're not only working on just Kyokushin and the bare-knuckle tournaments together with these kickboxing matches and some full rules fights coming up, we have a goal of karate combat.
Right. Yes.
So Hunter Perez is after 10 different types of smoke. Mm-hmm. So what Hunter Perez brings to the table is just solid fundamentals and pressure, and that he wants it.
How long has he been with you?
We're coming up on, about since I moved back, so about 2 years now.
Yeah.
Maybe just less than that. He was originally out of Salty Dog, and he was doing MMA for a while. He came in for Derek Brunson's fight against Lyoto Machida. That's how Hunter kind of got into MMA, is that he showed up to spar Brunson for the Machida fight.
As a karate guy.
And man, those videos are awesome.
I seen them.
And I was like, oh damn, Hunter, you is athletic. And
Yeah.
so and it's been funny because like when I first met him, like he was like a karate kid.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
now he is very much a kickboxer. And that's been my favorite transition, is where he's relearning how to use these tools he's already had. About punching and kicking, I'm like, okay, here's different fundamentals and applications, here's your base still. And I see something very similar with Fitzgerald as well, where he's a traditional martial artist and Daniel's checking those boxes and covering it.
That's interesting.
I really
what
like
if
this
they
match.
just full out go Kyokushin on each other in there?
Perfect.
Yeah, that's Hunter's kind of fight,
Perfect.
right?
Yeah, like Hunter's even like, yes, try to out Kyokushin me too.
Yeah,
like,
that would be a credible thing.
I don't know
to
if
see.
he's a Kyokushin guy. I believe, because even Hunter has now recently become a Kyokushin guy.
Right.
He was a Shotokan karate guy.
Right.
Fitzgerald's footwork is reminiscent of, I haven't talked to the kid. I haven't asked Daniel. This is just me looking at him going, he switches stances, he's light on his feet. The way he moves on the outside, I see some traditional background. Okay, cool. With Hunter, he was a Shotokan karate guy that we used through some kickboxing training to turn into a Kyokushin fighter, and now we're turning that Kyokushin fighter back into a kickboxer.
Mm.
And we've been working his boxing just as long as we're working his kickboxing. So we just kind of and you know me, I like to kind of cover all the boxes we have in front of us.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
and that's why I like this matchup. I do.
Yeah, I like it too.
I mean,
I'm excited to see Hunter compete.
I'm expecting Hunter to win, but that's just my opinion. I know Daniel's expecting his guy to win, but it's
Right.
also that's why Daniel, I know, it's all right, we're training our guys to beat this other guy.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. And it's cool that you guys could have that understanding as coaches. You just reach out to him and be like,
Yeah.
"Hey, man, it is what it is." Because
and
it's
the
the
more
same deal when I talk to
more
people
that
like
you
Cody
coach,
or-
where it's I've been bringing along some friends of mine that are now becoming coaches, and I'm bringing them to these Muay Thai tournaments I've been going to for years now.
Yeah.
And they see us of hey, how do you know these other coaches? I'm like, we've all cornered against each other. And they're like, you're cool with each other? I'm like,
And
yeah.
sometimes with
We're
each other and
gonna
against
we're
each
gonna
other,
corner against each other on Friday night, and then you're gonna see us cornering with each other
Exactly.
with the same hangover Saturday morning and stuff like that. And it's a really funny it's just it be what it be. And
it do be what it be.
It do be what it be.
It do be what it be.
And that's yeah. So I'm super excited. I think it's gonna be a really fun fight for people to see.
Are you familiar with Brandon Sanders out of Carolina Kickboxing Academy? By any chance?
Brandon Sanders. Yeah, he's one of Walker's newer kids, I think.
Okay,
I mean,
cool.
not newer. I believe
this
he was
is
there
this is like the set. This is like the big chunk of the card where
Mhm.
it's mostly a lot of debuts.
Mhm.
So I was just curious because I saw that he was Team CKA, so I figured
Yeah.
I'd ask.
Well, if it's someone from CKA, I mean, they've been put through the ringer. Walker's been not only a Muay Thai
Right.
coach in this area, he's been a Muay Thai coach in Thailand. He's been a Muay Thai coach in Las Vegas.
You especially when you see somebody from his team, you know exactly what they've been through. You know exactly.
Oh yeah, they're going to be good. Yeah, they're going to be in a
They're gonna be-
they're
they're gonna be
ready for a fight.
ready,
That's
yes.
it. Yeah,
They might
and,
not be Bangkok ready, but they're Spartanburg ready.
Spartanburg ready.
They're Spartanburg ready.
And that means that's someone that's been through the reps of PKBs.
Exactly.
Walker
Yeah.
and I are both kind of on that same boat of you don't learn how to fight by getting thrown into your first fight.
Exactly.
You need to be taught how to fight, and you need to be taught how to be coached, and then and so that's why Walker and I had that same thing of when that fighter knows how to listen, we let him fight.
Right.
Yeah.
We've got some returning guys I see on here. Kaz Ivanov, he had a cool fight against Holston White.
They had a banger.
Yeah, really, really fun fight those two had. So excited to see him back. He's super aggressive, very strong guy. Got a lot of power in the kicks too.
And that's an interesting matchup because whenever you see someone from Form Fitness fighting someone like Kaz, it's a fun matchup because the guys out of Form Fitness have awesome footwork.
Exactly.
They have great ringmanship.
Matt Fleming.
Yeah, a lot of that old Adam Espo influence.
Yes,
yeah.
of course. Yeah.
And it's cool because you see them really navigate the fight with their footwork. So they really do try to pull themselves away from the bigger shots, and they set up long stepping counters and stuff like that. They can strike in a half circle. It's like an old boxing habit, but they know to finish on the kick. So this creates a very fun Kaz wants to fight on that straight line. And then homie from Childress, Brent is going to be fighting on a half circle.
Right.
Yeah, trying to make a pizza pie.
Making a pie. Landon Bush, we commentated his debut in the baseball stadium all those years ago.
Wow, really?
And he's fought for it a couple times since then. He fought Xavier Poole last appearance.
Landon Bush, primarily the American kickboxer kid.
Yeah.
He's out of team, not Hurricane. No, it would say SMA or
SJD.
SJD. That's right. It's like a Superior Jeet Kune Do Academy.
Right.
Yeah. And it's been cool watching him because I dig seeing these.
He's got a lot of personality.
Yes, like a lot of these traditional guys just say like, yeah, fuck it, we'll fight.
Right, and he's a guy who likes to fight.
That's how kickboxing became big in North Carolina. Is a bunch of karate guys going, I'll fucking fight you.
He does have that vibe of like crazy karate man.
He does.
Like
he embodies karate man, and I love seeing him fight. And he's fighting Nathaniel Burwell from East Coast Fighter.
Yeah, and we've seen him fight too.
Yes,
Burwell's pretty good too. Yeah, I think that's a really sick fight. Landon, I'd like to see him pick up a win because every time he's been out there that I've been commentating, I think he has lost, but he's been extremely entertaining. Mm-hmm. And it's like sometimes in these kickboxing matches, especially at these smaller weight classes and these younger guys, it can sometimes look like they're in their heart sparring.
Yes.
But Landon Bush is a guy who's there to fucking fight.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
he bloodies people. He gets bloodied.
Whenever he gets put in an uncomfortable spot, you see that kid going like, "Fuck, I got to put myself back in this fight." Mm-hmm. And I'm like, man, like as a coach, I'm like, oh, I've seen that face a bunch.
Right.
Shit.
Yeah. You have a lot of guys that you wish were like that. Right? I'm sure.
Yeah.
Right. Like they have everything else. Then getting into some title fights. I think me and Taylor Starling will be on the call for all of these kickboxing matches, from what I understand. I'm really excited to see kind of how her commentary game has changed since she's become much more of a social media celebrity. Yeah, I'm sure she's gotten way more comfortable with stuff like this. But Brent Williams, friend of the show, will be taking on Omar Hassan.
That old baby shark.
Yeah, the Sudan.
And man, he's taking on Omar, and he's out of Team Matrix now, which is this is almost Omar's first fight out of Matrix, I believe. Right?
I believe so. He was with
mainly with Stephen Coble for a while.
Right.
Yeah,
yes,
and Omar's always been and we talked about it. He's a great kick fighter.
Extremely good.
Just throws kicks.
I mean, obviously,
I've never seen someone throw so many kicks in a fight.
You can say whatever you want about Mr. Brent Williams, about his personality or his antics or whatever, but the guy's not looking for an easy fight. This is a fucking hard fight to take.
Yes.
Like, this guy's good.
And Brent's primarily, he was getting ready for his pro debut.
And this is the only time in my knowing of Brent, which has been his entire combat sports career that I've been talking to him, that he's ever said an opponent was not bad.
Right, he did say that. He gave some high praise.
He was he said he's mid, which is very high praise from Brent Williams.
Yeah. And hey, you know what? I think that this is a great evolution for Brent.
Yeah.
I think this is a fight that he needs because he is used to being like a pretty talented little kid. You know, he kind of ran into a little I think he ran into a personal rough patch after that one fight that we kind of know about. That it was over in 7 seconds. Tough.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think
way.
As time has gone on, Fight For It people, I'm sorry, I know it's Atlantic MMA, but as time has gone on, I think more and more people have kind of come around on Brett on that, of being like, you did get clipped, but it was not a great stoppage either.
It wasn't a great stoppage either.
There's that for both guys, right?
But hey, man, being on the receiving end of something like that situation, that moment of like, damn, like that will Jorge Masvidal needed to go to a reality TV show to find it. I think Brent found that and he's like, oh, it can be gone just like that.
Very, very quickly, yeah.
And when you're a kid and you see that reality in front of you, it makes that direction a lot different. You're like, I'm going to approach this path way better. Like you're already on an off-beaten path.
And Brent
doesn't mean you should be, you should kind of see what other people have done ahead of you a little bit, and still make your own path.
I'm pretty interested to see what things are like for the new Brent Williams, like post-COVID Brent Williams.
Mm-hmm. The glow up.
Yeah, exactly. I'm curious to see what he looks like in a kickboxing match, because I think the moments where he's been the best in MMA were when he's really implementing his grappling game or forcing that issue, right? When he tried to strike with Jonathan Freeman, that didn't really work out for him, you know. But this is a new guy; he's way better at striking. I'm kind of interested to see how that part shakes out. But in talking to Brent, I found that he said he's going to try to time the kicks with volume. When the kicks come, he's going to start delivering volume up top.
Yeah, and that's what I'm curious, because Omar, you'll see, like, his only hiccup in the past has been dealing with someone that can get past his kicks and keep him, like, I call it keeping that person in the I don't give a fuck range, meaning I can kick you and not worry about getting punched. Once he
Right.
has to give a fuck, he has to change the game a bit. I've seen him fight in like some Muay Thai tournaments, but like it's been a while since I've seen Omer fight. And him being out of Matrix, getting someone that has maybe a bit more of a boxing coach background in front of him, I think is going to be a big, like, I think that Brent might be running some counters up top. I don't think
Right.
Omer's going to be looking to be in a hand fight. I think he's going to be looking for the shots that he can counter from that volume, because Omer, I think, knows his problems of the past, and that's what Brent was pointing out. And then Omer's going to find that counter so he can get back to, I don't give a fuck. And because we can see Omer, like, Omer will fire off 3 kicks at the same leg and make the angle off each time. And I'm like, man, that's hard to do, like, for pros. And he's just all over the place with it. So, you know, I think that Omer is also aware of his evolution, or what he needs to evolve to.
It's been a while since we've seen him. I wonder what he looks like, especially under new tutelage. I mean, it's always interesting to me when a fighter switches camps, because it has an impact, a measurable impact on every fight that I've seen where that's been the case, right? So, I mean, Omer versus Brent for the 135-pound title. Originally, Brent, he was looking for Deuce Carter.
Oh, yeah.
And it couldn't materialize for whatever reason. So, he's fighting Omer for a belt instead. And he's going to be a little bit bigger. He's going to be 135. You know, then he would have been fighting Deuce anyway. Or, you know. I don't know. I think this is a good fight, a good chance for Brent to really prove himself beyond just what people know he's capable of in MMA, and he's already back to his winning ways in MMA since then. Obviously, he's had a lot of work done since then, but I think he wants to do a few more things in this amateur arena before going pro, like he was originally talking about. So that one excites me a lot, and then I'm sure we'll talk about this one for a while too. Brandon Rollins of Rollins Kickboxing Academy for the 145 kickboxing title, taking on Cameron Sandoval, who we just saw win a belt like 3 weeks ago.
Yes.
In Charleston.
Yes.
And
his third amateur belt.
He absolutely melted the guy he fought. It wasn't close, and it was pretty.
Someone I told you that you probably see, and you know what? I've had both of these guys in front of me, and I've worked with both of them. And this is Brandon's biggest test
ever.
And I like Brandon. He's cross trained with me a bit, and then Cameron, I've cross trained with him a bit. You know, I haven't told these guys about each other. I just go like, cool. I hope you guys are both ready for this, because if there is something that Brandon will do, like, he will still always be punching and kicking at you. Like Brandon, like he doesn't fight with pressure the most, but he is always moving and always hitting.
Yeah.
And in a fight that's going to be out of the clinch, because his last run was in that Muay Thai tournament, he had some issues with the clinch in a fight. It was more of like a stalling position of like a body lock, and I was like, hey, that's what people do in tournaments to conserve energy for the next fight. You have to be ready for it. You know, not everyone's going to come out and punch and kick and move the whole time like Brandon wants them to. Here's the thing, so does Cameron, and it's just like, oh no, like I think this is going to be looking like a Dragon Ball Z fight scene for a little bit, where you like, oh, I'm over here now. Oh God, what the fuck? And the ref's going, why are you upside down?
And you're playing the DBZ game,
like,
button mashing.
The ref is like, no fireballs, guys. What the fuck? Like, that's what this fight's gonna look like. And personally, I don't see this going. This is going to be a 5-round fight.
I was going to say it's going to be a storm, and I don't know who's still standing when the storm is past. You know, it's like,
I know Brandon's been like trying to up his conditioning with like tournaments and stuff like that. I know Cameron. He's around a good camp. Like he it's not his first rodeo.
It's the best camp possible.
It's his fourth title fight now. And so he's used to being that longer run.
In the Fight for It preview article, they failed to mention that he also has 12 Muay Thai fights.
I believe it's around there, like 10 or something like that, 10, 11,
12,
10 and 1,
full rules fights. And
no, it's not full. I think it's a mix of kickboxing
just mix.
And stuff like
okay,
that,
cool. Okay. Either way, 12 bouts in the ring, and then doing what he does in the cage. It's like, man, this kid is a real serious prospect, serious. Could be a mega talent prospect, but he's got to win on these shows. We've talked about it before. These guys who have a lot of the boxes checked, but they got to be able to win when everything is on the line.
I'm really curious about this fight. About will Brandon be able to keep his outside pressure
Yes.
And will Cameron be able to keep coming in front and cutting in and cutting off? You know, like you're going to see someone get hit on an exit or a counter in this fight.
Yes.
You know, I don't see any sloppy exchanges. I see a lot of moving. And I want to say, man, like, I don't see any patience from either one in the first round. What I mean by patience is there's not going to be measuring. They're both going to be like, we got to get the fucking work.
Yeah.
Like, these are both guys that have over 10 fights.
Yeah.
They know to get to work. And like, hey, if Brandon thinks it's time to get to work in the third, fourth, or fifth, that could be
the belt is on the line.
Like, the belt's on the line.
And,
like,
you know,
you need to be ready to work from round 1 through 5.
He's been worthy of a title shot for many years.
Absolutely.
You know, a lot of promotions would have said this guy's ready for a title fight, especially fight for it as many times as he has.
Mm-hmm.
He's been asking for it for a while, and he got it. And this is probably the best guy you can draw in the area.
Yeah, this is one of those,
in this weight class right now.
If you want to find out that you want to be fighting outside the Carolina fight scene, you got to fight someone like Cameron Sandoval.
Right, because he's originally from Arizona, right? From New Mexico.
Nevada.
That was Nevada.
Yeah.
Originally from that area, and he was exposed to a lot of really, really great coaching. You know, Kelly Anderson that is with him still at Battleborn. That's a good camp to be at.
Yeah.
It's a good camp. A literal fight team there. A team of people who are constantly...
That all moved from different states to train
to be fighters. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't think people have fully come to appreciate that aspect of what Kelly's doing yet, but they will when all of his fighters have titles in all these promotions.
Yep.
So, gonna be exciting for the 145-pound belt. I would say Sandoval is a heavy favorite, but Brandon Rollins is an athlete. He's a dog, and you can never, ever
count Brandon out.
You can't count him out. I mean,
I've seen Brandon do some wild stuff, and I'm like, holy shit. Like, that can be very dangerous.
Yeah, especially when he gets going to the body, like his knees to the body. When he needs Zach Thrifton.
Yeah, like Cameron Sandoval's fast, but I'm like, I've seen Brandon Rollins be very fast as well.
Right, exactly. I mean, I think this is a good matchup, especially KB-wise. Combat Jiu-Jitsu. I don't know if we've ever talked about this on the show, but I think Combat Jiu-Jitsu is a little stupid, a little silly. But it's fun to watch.
I say, man, if you're going to do combat jiu-jitsu, just put some fucking palm strikes and leg kicks on the feet and call it Sambo or Pancration, man.
Like, I mean, I just feel like I don't know. There's something about it that just exudes goofiness to me. I can't say it any other way.
Jiu-jitsu guys don't want to learn any boxing footwork. It's hard. I get it.
But our boy, Roland Mazel, is back. He's taking on Coulter Grice in a combat jiu-jitsu match, and I think this is a great move for Roland after what he's kind of gone through in the cage the past couple times, where when it's allowed to be on the feet, when the fight is on the feet, Roland is dominant. But when the grappling gets introduced, I know that Roland's a competent grappler. I've rolled with Roland plenty of times.
I used to coach the
kid. I know he's got good wrestling. What is lacking? What's the missing element between that and being able to do it in the cage?
There's wrestling in high school, which is just wrestling in high school, and all you can focus on wrestling in high school is that, because high school is dumb. Right. When you are an adult and you have to deal with adult shit, and you have to train to wrestle in a cage while getting punched and kicked, like anything while getting punched and kicked is fucking hard to do.
That's true.
You know what takes the fun out of shit? Getting pinned against a cage and getting hit. If you had fun wrestling in high school, you're going to have a bad time fighting in a cage. If you wanted to wrestle to grab someone and pin them into the fucking ground because you're part Spartan from 500 BC in your gene pool or something, then climb in a cage and fucking pin someone to a wall and hit them. You know? And it's one of those things of, it's also, in MMA, we can get caught up in comfort zones, and our mind cannot transition to the rough spot that we're in. So I feel like with Roland is he works well with comfort zones. When he gets going with his striking, he has a great flow. Once he's taken out of that, he has a hard time realizing how to use his wrestling, get back to his striking, and kind of keep that full MMA wheelhouse going. It's a lot going on at once. So how do you combat that? You do some jiu-jitsu in a cage with some fucking punches.
That is very smart. That's a very smart way of looking at it. Like,
Hey man, I've had my ass beat a lot.
obviously-
I've had to relook at all my life choices.
Obviously, Roland is more than competent on the feet.
Yeah.
By light heavyweight standards, he's exceptional.
I've seen him just roll and do just grappling,
Right.
and no-gi, and
he's
like
good.
He does good. But I'll tell you what, man,
It's the mixing.
it is really fucking hard to put that Lego rocket ship together, man. You know.
And that's a good way of, we're going to do jiu-jitsu, but there's going to be a little bit of striking, but you can't do it on the feet. So that's nice for Roland.
This is like that. You still have to deal with, and I don't know if they can they pin each other to the cage wall and strike.
No, they can't. Nothing on the feet. But if you're pinned against the cage wall,
no, on the ground, so this is still a good position for Roland to look at. Now it's smart. Coulter, he has fought. No, he's done the combat. He's done the jiu-jitsu.
He beat Alex Pokey, and I believe
that's right. Right. Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken,
I've seen him do grappling before, and that's where I saw him. So
if I'm not mistaken, Alex was winning most of the time, and then got caught with a submission.
I remember that. Yes.
If I'm not mistaken.
And so
sorry too.
If Roland is doing ground slap fighting with someone that is normally not used to ground slap fighting, but being on the ground, I think this is a good transition for Roland. We could probably see Roland can dog someone out in some just wrestling on the ground. Like he was the captain,
jiu-jitsu guy,
and I can see Roland turning this into a wrestling match to get arm and ankle control, like dog him to the wall a bit. Start finding ground strikes on the ground. Like mix up where you're going to be at. Like get comfortable in a creative space that is still competitive to get comfortable against that cage. Or he'll be in the worst case scenario where he's still stuck on the cage and he has to figure it out. Yeah. And he can't get back to his feet, so he has to use his fucking jiu-jitsu to get the fuck back into that grappling match. Yeah. So no matter what, it's a space of improvement for Roland. And if Coulter wants to go on to MMA, him getting a dub over a seasoned MMA fighter is a good. I don't know what he wants to do. It's a good step for him.
Maybe he just wants to be a combat jiu-jitsu superstar.
Dope. Then keep doing against MMA guys, man. Yeah. Eddie Bravo's paying you to do it, I guess. Cool.
Somebody will. It seems like there's more and more of these popping up everywhere. So even if I think they're a little silly, I got to get used to them. Brian Ashland of it says here ATT Asheville, formerly I guess of Rogue Combat Club.
Yes.
Taking on Roy Jones out of Boss Grappling. We know Brian very well.
Yes.
The dude has an insane game. Like he
really does.
He has a game that is just it's 10th Planet, but it's 10th Planet with a little Carolina barbecue sauce on it.
It really is.
It has its own flair to it, but the guy he can grapple like a motherfucker, and I wouldn't say he's a specialist, but I definitely think out of all the people I follow personally that I know, he's got more twisters than anybody. I think he's got 3 or 4 or something like that I've seen at least. He might have more that I don't know about in competition, and then I can't imagine if you can hit that move, which is one of the hardest moves to set up in jiu-jitsu in my opinion, and be good at setting up. God knows how many people you're tapping with in the training room. So I mean, we know the guy trains hard. We know he grapples hard. I know Roy is a big time guy down there in the lower parts of the state as well. But I really enjoy watching Brian grapple, especially when he was doing the quintets and stuff like that with Rogue. I thought that was super fun. Mm-hmm. Then Khalil Pettiford out of Elevate MMA Academy will be taking on Brandon Johnson from Team Rock.
Which Team Rock is he out of?
I think this might be Eden, if I'm not mistaken, but let me check. Khalil, of course, fought on not the last fight. Or no, it was the last fight. It was.
Yeah, he had the uppercut knockout.
Yeah, big knockout.
Very clean, yeah.
Big knockout.
Khalil's one of those guys where he's been training for a long time. And he was supposed to have had 12 fights by now or something like that. The number of fight camps he's had. Dude.
I know that there was a time,
and I've seen this kid move, and I'm like, oh man, you want to fight real bad? He's got a gift of movement and power.
Yeah, I definitely think he's got an athleticism that is on a level that is just above 99.9% of humans before he ever started training. And then when he started training, it's like he took to it like a fish in water, mentally, in terms of being comfortable being in the fight and hitting and getting hit back. I think this guy is from Norwood, if I'm not mistaken. So if I am seeing this correctly, I would assume Norwood is to Eden. Okay. So it might be Team Rock Eden out there with the Cozies and Caleb and all those people that we know so well. But
that's the school that has a lot of strong conditioning, and they will fight in your face the whole damn time. So for that matchup for Khalil, like, this would be a good fight because this is going to be another person that's going to keep coming at him.
Have you seen on Team Rock Eden's Facebook page where they do like 90-day transformations?
Yes.
Bro, their 90-day transformations look like year
two
or year and a half
people.
transformations for most gyms.
Yeah.
It's pretty fucking crazy what they're doing.
It's insane what they're
doing. For
doing.
not just fighters.
No.
For regular people,
just people in
everyone.
town. Yep.
I mean, that says a lot about your strength and conditioning, where you can have consistently post 90-day transformation photos that truly look like crazy transformation.
Oh, yeah.
You know? I think that Khalil, it's a big step up in competition, obviously, from his last fight, who already had much more experience than him.
Yeah, well, his last fight was a kickboxing match.
Yes.
Yes, and so with this being an MMA fight, this will be great because we know Khalil has the striking pedigree. And if you're fighting from Team Rock Eden, you're in an MMA fight.
Yeah.
There's going to be punching, there's going to be kicking, there's going to be a lot of grappling. You're going to be in the cage, you're going to be off the cage, you're going to have someone still diving for your leg in that third round when you're dog-ass tired if it gets there and you're like, well, I'm still in a fight.
Yeah, and he can definitely grapple. I've not rolled with him at all, but I've been in the room when he's training, and I've definitely heard some stories from guys that train there that the striking is definitely the scariest aspect of him, but he's no slouch on the ground.
Yes.
So, I mean, I think that he's another one of those guys. We were talking about Cameron Sandoval. Like, this is a legit prospect. I know it's very early to say this about Khalil, but I think that he's got that same spark, that same potential of like, damn, this guy's checking all the right boxes physically. He checks all the right boxes in terms of like his mental preparedness, and he's a proven winner and finisher now that he's got a little bit of experience. And it's like, damn, can he do that for like 8 fights or 9 fights? Because if he does, we've definitely got one here.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if he can do that, what he did in his last fight against this guy, I mean, it is going to be a serious hype train going for this guy, and especially in Durham and Raleigh, because there's not a ton of undefeated fighters coming out of here. And speaking of undefeated fighters coming out of the Raleigh-Durham area, Talia Cusinelli of Hometown MMA and G13 Jiu-Jitsu.
I heard Talia's
and
coach
your
is a jerk.
heterosexual life partner will be taking on...
I heard no one likes her striking coach. I heard that guy's a meanie.
Sasha Rockwood of Tap Out Fitness. MMA 115. Gotta love it. Talia back, ready to go again.
Well, and she's ready. She's back. She's ready, back to go. Or she's back to being ready again. What did I say? Because you were asking about camp, and I was like, "Look, we don't know what a camp is." Like,
yeah, she's just been in the shape that she's in now for months and months.
Her and Hunter are both in that same boat of like, no, they just always train to stay ready.
Right.
And that's it. Like, if we have 6 weeks to prepare, cool.
I think when we were
a lot of routine, like all we do is it's like, okay, like our routine doesn't change. We just know a day to make weight, and that still doesn't deter much from what we do in the first place.
Right.
We don't have to focus around a weight cut. We don't do that. We still focus around training to be ready to make weight in a time frame, and also like our technical training and output. Like we know when to ramp it up and pull it back. Like that's how it goes. And we also train to be ready for 2 weeks notice.
Yeah.
Hey, my guys like a 2 weeks notice. We're like, okay, we can do that.
All I gotta do is worry about making weight.
That's it.
Yeah, I mean, and when we were in Charleston, she told us that she was like 126, 125, so it's not like she had a ton to cut anyway.
No.
Taking on Sasha Rockwood, who's coming off of what would look like a bit of a layoff, but I'm pretty sure...
I think she's had a loss in this past year.
September. I'm pretty sure she had I'm pretty sure she had an unsanctioned fight in September because it's not on any records anywhere.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
So usually when that's the case, when I see a fighter is posting fight pics or results and it's nowhere to be found online, it's because it's not a sanctioned bout.
Yes.
So I would assume that...
probably Virginia.
So she's technically 2-0 as well.
Yes.
Then, even though she did recently have a loss, so it's undefeated fighter versus undefeated fighter. And, I mean, I don't know if you want to talk about this, but it was something that I was interested in asking you about beforehand, which is, like, when you're preparing any fighter for a fight, but especially MMA-wise, being a person from a striking background, but I feel like I know you well enough to say that you have a very obvious grasp of the concept of grappling and MMA. And Talia won her last fight using grappling. That was the big difference maker from my perspective.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, what's the strategy or the go-to?
We don't do strategies.
Okay.
A fight starts this way or fights that way. The fight goes this way or goes that way.
You're ready for Sasha to come out and fight hard as hell in the first round.
Or we're ready for her to maybe sit back and pull us into a fight.
So it's a reactionary. Talia's just going to listen to what you're saying. You're just going to be reacting to what's
Same
happening.
thing with Hunter. It's just I
That's
don't.
your style.
Yeah, I like to coach people. I like to teach people how to do stuff.
Mm.
You know, I'm one of those people where it's like, I'm like, if I'm gonna let my dog off the leash, it's because it knows how to listen and it knows what to do. It knows when to go. It knows when to stop. And like, I mean, it's kind of like I can say like, it might be like a sound.
That's
one analogy, but that's like one of those things of like where it's like my fighters know what the end goal is. We punch and kick to win the round, A to B. Okay, round 2, punch to A to B. And like we go round by round. We make our adjustments. They give me feedback. I give feedback. And I like to create communication with my guys. And it's one of those things of like, you know, I have enough experience where I feel confident like what should be covered as far as like a fighter's checklist of the reps we're hitting, of places we should be putting that person into during which camp. Like really, it's like we're always learning the fight game. And I'm always teaching the fight game. Just we sometimes have time before a fight where it's like, I'm going to put you in these scenarios. And I kind of made that reference sort of like, yeah, it's like watching an octopus like figure something out.
Right.
You know, like I bring in training partners, I'm like, oh, good spar. Like, let's do these warm-ups, like let's work at these positions, but now spar.
And then you just observe what happens in
and it's like I have to see, like once I see what a fighter's habits are, like good or bad, natural, unnatural, like what is forced, what can we do like off the bat. And then like you give that feedback during the camp or like during practice, and you know, Talia and I were always together, and she's gotten it from day one.
Right.
And so like with this fight with Sasha, it's one of those fights where it's like, cool, she has 3 fights, cool, she's a brown belt in jiu-jitsu, cool, it's still an MMA fight.
Yeah, and she's, you know, local to the region as well.
Yeah.
So I mean,
and I like Sasha. Like these two have trained together.
Yeah.
And you know,
but
like
there's just
I've got
not a lot of women's fights at 115.
Yeah, and you know, and it's one of those. It's like what I like about this is that Sasha's gonna come out, and you know, I know she's been training under Marcus. I know that she's changing her game, and we haven't prepared Talia for the old Sasha. I'm always like, hey, we're preparing for like whoever's in front of you, but better.
Yeah.
And you know, some fighters find that really annoying about me as a coach, where I look at the person in front of you, how do I make this problem better for you to have a bigger problem?
Like if like this person, this fighter, take all their strengths and
because Sasha's already like she will strike, she will wrestle, she will grapple.
And what is the
she does
worst
the
case
MMA.
scenario essentially?
Exactly.
Like what if everything was going right for them in the fight?
And then all of a sudden,
And
okay,
train
like
under
this
those conditions.
yeah, like some people like can't always train in an air conditioned room. Like the heat's kind of up to you sometimes, believe it or not. Like, and so
there's no AC at your spot, right? Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, so yeah,
the AC is the closed door.
A lot of people
spin
ask
around
me,
real fast, and you might cool off.
Not a lot of people, but you know, some people ask me that are not necessarily coaches, but like I'll just say, I'm sure he wouldn't mind me saying this, but Greg Martinez, personal trainer, my personal trainer, strength and conditioning coach, and a good friend, he asked me, why do I think you're successful as a coach, and why do I think your program is growing in such a consistent, steady direction?
He asked you that about me?
Yeah.
No,
and when
he asked that about me to you?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
When we were working out. And I said, well, I think the biggest thing that separates Trevor from other coaches, especially in this immediate area, Raleigh, Durham, and the Triad region of Greensboro, is that you will never ever allow someone to walk if they're not ready to be in a fight.
Right.
And therefore, when you have students go out there, they look a certain way. They look ready to fight.
Yeah.
And I think people see that, and they're like, this guy obviously knows what the fuck he's doing.
It's one of those things where it's like, I had to learn how to fight because I had to go sign up for fights if I was ready or not.
I feel like that's still happening today.
And it happens a lot. And like when I start, and like you got to sit and like talk with my friend and former student Zach Bender,
yes,
which is so cool because like I've known him now. We talked about like for close to a decade, and I've seen him go through his career with like Ranger Up, and now his own like Brutal Bohemian line, and like he and I were talking about like some of my biggest frustrations were sometimes training people from other gyms, and I'm like, that's not like the habit I want my student to have. Yeah. Why would someone think? And it's not like a knock. It's just like, why would someone think that's a good habit? Like in theory, that's a good habit, but you have to have the right moment for that habit to work. And that's why I teach how a fight goes. And that even means, like, how do you personally feel about fighting?
Right.
Do you want to do this or not? Here's what I learned a long time ago. I don't want to be a fighter.
Yeah.
I understand for me to understand fighting, like, there is, like, this weird thing that I was like, well, I was kind of fucked up as a kid. I kind of had these things happen to me. I guess I'm supposed to do this or stand-up comedy. And instead I climbed into a ring and, like, a cage a couple times, and I was like, whoa, okay.
Or you
like,
can try both.
And then I still tried both. Yeah, but no, and it turns out I shouldn't do either. But no, and so it's one of those things where it's like I was in the pursuit of, like, wanting to learn how to fight. Where, like, I would have people show me stuff, but I was always like, how do I do it? Like, I understand jab, cross, hook, but how do I do it over here? I understand jab, cross, hook, how do I do it over here? And I kind of would have questions, and it sometimes, like, casually, like, are you saying what I teach doesn't work? And I'm like, no, I just want to know, how am I going to apply this to use it in a fight? Because hitting pads and sparring isn't coaching. I'm a big believer in having pad rounds that, like, have a rhyme and a reason behind the general punch-kick defense.
Right, of course.
Here's how we execute this next step. Here's how we get to point A in a fight. Same thing of, like, my drilling. I'm a big person of, like, interruption drills, scenario drills. Like, I have students say, like, fuck, dude, this is the most live training I've ever had. And I'm like, is it? Like, I don't know. This is just how I feel like it should be done. Where I'm always making people improve on the most minute fundamentals and the applications, and also the improvements internally of, like, how you feel about what you're getting into. We all had to get hyped up for our first swim lesson as a kid, man.
Yeah, exactly.
And hey,
if we don't remember
you feel like you're a grown-ass adult. You tell me you feel like a fucking adult when you climb into a ring or cage unprepared. And then you have your coach telling you, you moron, how come you didn't do this? Well, motherfucker, maybe if you showed me how instead of telling me how to, like, instead of just telling me to do it and you showed me, I'd have had an easier time. And so, like, I'm not always the easiest coach to get along with. But that's because it's also, like, if you're just honest with what you want to do with this, then we can get along just... And that's what, like, with Talia, she's like, I want to do this. And I'm like, okay. And it shows in her training.
It definitely does. Yeah. For the short amount of time that she has been training relative to a lot of her peers, she has made the most of it. That's what I mentioned in the article that I wrote, is that she's making the most out of every day of training that she gets. Yeah. And I think that definitely will show in her work. So I think it's going to be a good fight. It's definitely a big step up.
And that's also what we are looking for. Right. We talk about our time frame with this.
5 years, what you said.
Yeah, and I'm just like, hey, babe, but this isn't anything that has been put in front of you in the practice room.
Right.
Yes,
exactly.
And with Sasha, like, you know, I know she was training with under Marcus Davis. He's like, hey, here's the Matrix. And I'm like, perfect. Like, and I'm making Talia ready to fight someone that is training under the human computer that is Marcus Davis of fighting. And I'm even just like, okay, cool. But, like, as a coach, I have, like, we've gone up against big schools before. We've gone up against stiffer competition. And it goes one way or the other. And then guess what we do after that? We go the fuck back to practice.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we go the fuck on to the next
Even when she won, she was at training, like,
the next day.
Like,
yeah. She was like, I think I kicked my ankle on her leg. I think I'll take Monday off. And then it was like, you know, like Piper, Jillian, and Anish, and Vic, after the last IKF tournament, they were all in practice Monday morning. Like, we train just so we're ready for it. Like, I tell people, you're going to come to my program, and you're either going to want to compete or be a teammate. Pretty fucking fun to be a teammate for some of these animals. Like, that's how I was coming up. I was just a teammate.
Yeah. I definitely...
And that's why even me, it's like, I even see, like, the frustration.
I love the teammate vibe. I mean, I definitely enjoy competing in jiu-jitsu, and, you know, I haven't shut the door on maybe doing one amateur fight, but I definitely am fully aware that I ain't trying to be a fighter, and I'm definitely fully aware that I am super content to be motherfuckers' teammates for the rest of my life. Yeah. Or you know, the commentary guy. I'm super content in my lane. So I don't have any
commentary stuff is so much fun.
I don't have any delusions about that, and I think a lot of people are. But I think a lot of coaches, you know, they're just like, we're gonna get this guy a fight, and then we're gonna find out if he can fight, and then we'll go from there.
That's not the best place to learn how to fight. Yeah.
Like some guys thrive under conditions like that.
They do, but
it's like 15% of people that do. Yeah. Most people when they experience a extreme amount of pressure.
All of the Viking memes you want to post online does not change your DNA, man.
Unless your name is Zach Thrift. If you're Zach Thrift, then you're about it.
It's one of those things of like I tell people, it's like you can post about being one thing. You're definitely going to find out if you are that thing.
Yes.
I found out a long time ago that Trevor Hayes the fighter is not a thing.
But
I'm just a fucking dude. And then, I meet these people that are like. I love it when I meet these people that have all the right things behind them, and I don't mean we'll say you need the right trauma to be a fighter. No, you just need to be born with that fucking thing where there is something like the people that have had nothing go against them in their life except trying to find themselves, and they see that ring or that cage and they just go,
"That's me.
I got to do that."
That's Calvin Qatar.
Dude, though I have a crop of these well-educated kids that I'm training. They're 18, 19, 20 years old. I'm like, but y'all are just about this? And I'm like, okay. Like, they're easier trained than every person that comes to me saying, I want to be this fighter to prove something. I'm like, okay, we're going to prove that you can't get punched probably. And we've all seen that.
Yeah, we were just talking about that beforehand. But two of the...
But hey, keep an eye on that fight. It'll be fun.
Best gyms in the Carolinas, Modern Warrior and Gym O. South Carolina, but the North Carolina too. Travis Snyder versus Silas Muscat.
Yeah.
This is one of the ones that I previewed for Fight for It too in the articles.
Muscat brothers.
And it's crazy that Gabe Muscat stepped in on short notice to take a fight against Chris Gonzo. We'll talk about that in a second. But
that's right. Yeah, I saw that and I was like, I don't remember that matchup. I remember seeing Chris. So when was that matchup made?
This week? 3 days ago.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, it's Sunday I think because I played D&D with Gonzo on Sunday. And he told me that his new opponent's name was Gabe Muscat. So I was like, oh, he must be Silas Muscat's brother. Anyway, Silas, I assume Gabe too. If I had to guess based on how Silas is in there, might be a grappler, wrestler, heavy guy.
Yeah, Muscat brothers are both wrestlers and primarily grapplers.
Yeah, I would think so. Silas was a super slick grappler from everything I saw of him at Ultimate Battlegrounds in his last Fight for It show, where he had that super slick armbar. But Travis Snyder, I mean, he's a super athlete. I mean, you look at the guy and you see what he can do online when he posts fitness videos, and you're just like, this guy is fitter than a lot of pro fighters.
Yeah.
He's fitter than a lot of guys that are already doing this for a living. So it's like, if you can be that physically fit and that dedicated to yourself, and you can put that into like training mixed martial arts, you're probably going to have great results. And he looked pretty damn good in his debut. So I mean, I think this is a fight that you could see having some fight of the night potential because Silas knows all of that, and he's probably going to be like, I got to pull this guy down and get him out of there. I got to choke him out.
Yeah.
So, I think that he's going to force the issue early, and we're going to get to see more of Travis Snyder's wrestling defense instead of his offense this time.
Yeah.
And that's a big testament of, like, can you do this? Because there's so many wrestlers out there, and wrestling and grappling is such a strong art against people who aren't ready for it.
And then it's also being over ready from one dimension of wrestling.
Correct.
Can sometimes, and that's always been like a big folly of fight scenes where it's like we see one person that might rise above the rest in like one certain area, and that person gets like too caught away in just doing that one type of like wrestling. Where like I like to take people and I'm like, hey, even if a person was a collegiate wrestler, like don't shoot like this. That works for wrestling.
Yeah.
Shoot into here. Change your stance. Get comfortable taking 3 to 4 steps instead of one shot. And that's where I talk about like switch hitting for MMA. And I feel like, we're going to see Travis fighting the angles better than Silas. Because Travis, I feel, is like that more modern, but Modern Warrior, like, they do a smart job of shooting at the right levels. Where sometimes I think the Muscat brothers will drop too low for a shot. They shoot like too much of a traditional wrestler. If you know how to switch stances and you know how to look for changing levels, you can kind of fight offline. So I'm really curious if now the general guys, like, they are privy to that, but let's see if I've cornered against Silas with Trevor Loken. Yes. I think I remember seeing him he shot way too low, and I was like, oh, how about that? And you can create angles and options from that. Yeah.
And then in a couple fights after that, Chris Gonzalez from the Elevate Tribe will be taking on his brother, Gabe Muscat. It's always got to be weird to be in a locker room with your brother, but also it has to be kind of natural too.
They have good energy. Like, I've seen them share the locker room and they work well.
Yeah.
Like, they're a good brotherly, like, duo for it. Like, it's cool to see.
Gonzo is a different animal than what we've ever seen in a sanctioned mixed martial arts fight so far, in my opinion.
Yeah.
He's been with Greg Martinez for like 8 months now, or 9 months, and he just looks completely different strength and conditioning wise, but the guy is also just like, he's just sparring differently, he's fighting differently, and not a couple weeks ago, it's probably like a month and a half ago now, because this is when Gonzo was getting ready for a boxing tournament. He invited the UNC Chapel Hill guys from the boxing club there to come to Elevate and do some sparring. And they got there, and I guess there was some kind of misunderstanding of like, we're going to spar. Chris was like, we're all going to be sparring each other and rotating. But they were like, no, we're not sparring each other.
Yeah, they all like didn't want to spar.
They were
each
like,
other.
we're not. Yeah,
and
we spar each other all the
they
time.
Didn't want to spar. Yeah.
And Chris was like, all right, I guess I'll spar all of you guys for 13 rounds straight, one after the other. And he did, and he just whooped all their asses like it was a Bruce Lee movie. And then the last guy was like, nah, I'm good. Yeah, the last guy who was supposed to spar him was just like, nah.
I was always that guy. They were like, hey, you should hop on that guy. And they're like, are you sure?
And this is that guy, by the way. I don't know his name, but this guy was that guy who, while everybody else was sparring, was shadowboxing and yelling to himself. And then
hype himself up.
And then when it came time for him to spar Gons, he was like, actually, I gotta go.
I gotta go take a shit.
Yeah, so Gonzo, different animal, and he's desperate to get this win here in MMA, and he's going to be up against a big-time wrestler, and I know that his strategy is more wrestling-oriented than it has ever been. He's looking to do a lot of wall work in this one. He's looking to press the issue back, because he's never had a problem backing people up, because he's a powerful guy, he's a strong guy. So once he backs them up, instead of just trying to like find a good angle for a strike, he's just going to go in and start wall working.
Yeah. And
I think Cody is really developing that aspect of Elevate's game, because he sees that as a underdeveloped area.
It's a tool, it's a weapon. I preach it like with my students all the time. You have to know that cage as well as you know everything else.
What Hyaston has done with that simple concept of understanding the cage wall.
They've taken like everything, like and you see it, and like they know how to use the cage for what it is.
Speaking of, a man you know very well is Emmanuel Simpson.
Yes,
and he'll be stepping back in, taking on Jonathan Freeman of
that's a big matchup for Emmanuel. Yeah.
So, did you watch Emmanuel's last fight?
I believe like that was when he got TKO'd. He
Yes.
couldn't get like in gear, and the guys kept swarming him with volume, and he had a hard time kind of getting in there.
Yeah. So, what do you think we're going to see from him this time, coming off of something like that?
I think that he'll be aware to not just sit still. Like, and this is something like wrestlers can kind of get the gun jumped on them a little bit.
Yeah.
And if they can't get comfortable, they can't get comfortable. I feel like he'll be comfortable, like, not looking exactly. I think he looked too much of, like, a boxing engagement that he wasn't ready for.
Yeah,
Instead of, like, wrestlers need to look for, like, simple shots that can move them offline to be away from volume so you can mix up your steps in. So I feel like Emmanuel, you know, he's probably done the right thing. He's probably, like, simplified his striking game. He's going to be looking to like move offline instead of engage in the striking, have Jonathan engage the striking, have himself look for counter striking to entries. Which is interesting because the Matrix guys also know how to use footwork well to avoid the cage. So this is kind of like watching the yin and yang of cage work right here.
Yeah, and Butterfly, you know, he's a guy who we've commentated in one of his fights before, but as a Fight For It or Ultimate Battlegrounds, he made his debut against Britt Williams, but he hasn't won since then. But he's been victorious in almost every other fight he's gotten outside of MMA, Muay Thai, boxing, and been on Street Beefs like 5 times now.
Oh yeah. You see, like Jonathan, like he does very well in the striking aspect of it.
Yeah.
So I'll be
really long, good jab on him. And I think that's one of the things that he took from being in those fights like in Street Beefs where you're fighting guys that maybe don't have as much experience in real fights or in real gyms. or in real scenarios, and it's like you can do a lot of damage to people with just a jab, and you can also keep them away from you until they are punched out, because a lot of those people will punch themselves out. And I just think that, I think Freeman has learned a lot in his time away from MMA, and I think that it'll be interesting to see if he can stay on feet.
Freeman cannot try and counter with single shots. He's still going to have to try and keep volume up. He has to build a wall between him and Emmanuel in this fight. I don't feel like Emmanuel's going to try and like pressure forward anymore, but he will be trying to be, I feel like, cutting off the setup, and Freeman's not going to be sitting still. And Emmanuel's going to be trying to like force him to sit still at some point.
Yeah.
And it won't be with a combination.
And then Aaron Murrow, or Aaron Castro, who defeated Emmanuel in that last bout.
Yes.
Is going to be taking on Ahmed Kamas. I love watching Ahmed Kamas fight. He's now under that
this is a fun
team.
matchup.
Yeah, I think that, it's interesting that they have Kevin Peraza and Ahmed Kamas co-main after their fight that was kind of close and kind of controversial at the end there.
Right.
It's interesting, maybe, putting those two guys together, especially with a belt. If Kamas wins this one and looks good, he could, be like, I deserve to fight Kevin again. I was 1 point away from beating him on the scorecard.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's one of those things where it's interesting that Fight For It is, if they are thinking like that, it's interesting that they, of all people, would think like that about an amateur storyline.
Mm-hmm.
Most promoters wouldn't put that much attention to detail in it. But Murray,
Ahmad gets through Aaron, and then Trevor gets through Kevin. That's a fun title fight.
That's a good fight,
well,
too.
yeah.
But Murrow versus Loken would be a cool fight, in my opinion, as well, because Murrow's like we said, high volume, super Mexican.
Castro?
Yeah, well, it says Aaron Castro, but he goes by Aaron Murrow. Okay. So I'm not sure if it's because of a lot of Latin last names, it's a two-part last name. So I'm just going to say Aaron. So, Aaron, he's very high volume, super high pressure, Mexican-style boxer, and he's just going to come out and put the pain out early, try to put him away, I think.
And Ahmed's slick, too.
Ahmed's slick, but he's got a little, bit... when he's up against guys that are really savagely trying to hit him, he has a little bit of a slowdown. He slows down on the grappling a little bit when he's worried about getting.
He'll recognize a person's opening and kind of pull away from it. Like when he sees an attack, he's like fighters will see that and go, I gotta fire before him, and they make that risk. Where like Ahmed, I think that he does the right thing of he sees that, he'll pull away, and maybe I saw some moments where he would use that as a pullout to engage a different fight.
Right.
And sometimes, if he's been hit, though, he doesn't want to get hit with that unseen shot again. So then, he'll get comfortable backing away. But once you find that counter on him, you can start finding those interruptions. Otherwise, I think, Ahmed has a very slick game. And he's always someone I enjoy. And I've gotten to work with that kid.
I really enjoy watching him, too. And he's got a little bit of a personality, too.
Yeah.
I wish he would... promote himself a little bit more. Maybe he will, because I know we'll be actually doing some interviews for some of the fighters.
Oh, nice.
And I imagine the co-main and the main will definitely be interviewed after their fights. But in the main event, Trevor Loken, your boy from Gracie Raleigh, taking on Kevin Peraza, who was victorious at the last Fight For It. So was Trevor. Of course, Trevor won by knockout. So could you explain a little bit about Trevor's background and Jeff and how this kind of came to be?
So, it is so weird to be cornering Trevor Loken for a title fight after I helped his brother train and win a title fight. Yeah. And Trevor, I saw the pictures of it yesterday. It was weird. I was like, what is life? And there's Trevor Loken in middle school. I think he was in 6th grade. He was like, how do I do this one day? And I was like, all right, start by wrestling. And I think maybe he was about to finish up middle school, he was about to go into high school.
Yeah.
And he just went on and joined the wrestling team. And then that motherfucker would just show up at our open sparring days when I was running the Blue Room and I was training Josh Koscheck and stuff like that. And we would have 30 deep training sessions, and Trevor just shows up with no striking credentials, none, just wrestling. But he's a Loken, so I was like, you're gonna cover your own ass. And he went, yeah. 16 years old, he's in there just slanging and banging with pro fighters, and he just had that in him ever since. He's put some time in the road. He's gone and trained at Rufus Sport, and he's been around. And it is really weird to be around someone's life, I guess, now for this long.
You saw him become a man.
I've seen him become a man.
You saw him go from a literal boy to a man.
Literal boy.
And now he's fighting for the championship after knocking another grown man out.
Oh, it's one of those things where I'm kind of just all right, that is the kid that I've seen since he was... Oh, actually,
watching Cars 2. Oh, there's the picture. Show it to the camera.
Okay,
I'm sure it'll focus if you put it.
You have to see the Loken bloodline of.
If it looks like shit, I'll just
Yeah.
put it on the screen. You can send it to me later.
But no, I looked at this and I'm just like, oh wait, that's like still the same kid. Like it to me, but it's not.
But now, I mean, look how far he's come with the train. I mean, this is a big fight for him, no mistake about it.
Yeah, and he's someone that he wants to go pro. Like that's like, there's some things that like he has his brother's same natural toughness.
Yeah.
He has the wrestling that Jeff didn't have. He also has some natural footwork, and I think it's because he also like he understands like you got to move yourself in the right.
He's definitely not afraid to get hit.
Definitely not.
He just straight up ran full speed into another grown man's head and almost knocked himself out in the last fight.
Yeah, and he's just like, I mean, sometimes it'd be that way in a fight, but it's like,
be that way.
Like it is something funny that Trevor has, and it's just in that DNA of like someone that is born to be in a fight is a Loken, and I'm just excited to see him get into this fight with Kevin Peraza,
who's one of the most technically talented guys on the amateur scene that's still left. You know, a lot of the guys from Hyacin.
He uses kicks to keep his defense up in range. He understands the cage well. Like it's almost like he's like the counter of what the normal is for Hyacin.
You're going to be in the corner for this one too,
for Trevor,
right?
Yes.
I mean, obviously, there's a lot of guys that you respect going into that situation.
I respect the shit out of like Tom,
but Ziggler and Ferrand,
and these guys. Like
that's like these are guys super corner.
These are like the guys that I've seen around forever, and I think this is actually like the first time we've cornered against each other. Which is like the weirdest thing.
That's crazy.
It's wild. Like I don't think like I remember I helped Dewan. I was like Dewan's teammate for his fight against like Keith Richardson, but I wasn't like coaching Dewan, and Keith was still at Hyacin then. But like I've never cornered against really Tom and Kevin and these guys, man.
Wow.
Because I think that's still when like Paul Boo was alive.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
One time I was training Jeff to fight Tony Tan, the wrestling coach. They were set to fight for Warfare for Jeff's title, but then Tony had to pull out or something. I don't know. But yeah, I've never cornered against these guys, and we get along great.
First time,
and we're really excited about this. We're really excited about it.
Yeah, I can imagine. So that's it, guys, for Fight For It 13 going down this weekend. They are still tickets on sale if you are in the area of Raleigh. It is around a 3.5 hour drive, or close to 4, or what is it?
It's about 4 hours from here.
It's about 4 hours from here. I know that there are some people looking to carpool and stuff like that. It's a show that's worth driving out for. I think my grandma might even come.
Oh, Gan's back.
You know, it's a fun show. They do a great job. If you can be in person, we would love to see you there in person. But there's always the option of seeing the event, hopefully live. There's some kind of thing where the live stream's kind of up in the air until the next couple days. But I'm hoping that we will have a live stream as we usually do, free for all of you guys. If not, maybe a small pay-per-view or whatever the case may be. It's a show you don't want to miss if you're interested in the Carolina fight scene, or if you are trying to support a fighter that is fighting on the card. Please don't miss it. We'll be back next week to talk about the show and talk about UFC. We did not get to UFC cards, so just real quickly I'll go through. Mike Malott fighting Mickey Gall. I like Mike Malott in that fight. That's a cool fight. Ian Gary's coming back. Volkanovski obviously taking on Korean Zombie. Plus 500 underdog on Zombie there. That's the best price you're ever going to get on him.
Wow.
I like Sterling a lot in the rematch, personally.
Interesting.
I really like Sterling in the rematch, actually. But, you know, Jan's a beast. Kamzat will probably win.
Big drama show. Big drama show with these predictions.
Yeah, I think Kamzat will probably win, and it will probably look easy for him to win. I think Mackenzie Dern wins, and it looks pretty easy for her.
I can see Kamzat getting a knockout in the first, to be honest.
But we'll recap that show next week. We kind of ran out of time here due to some unforeseen factors in the shoot. So apologize that we didn't get to go over the card in full detail, but we are excited about this one, especially Volkanovski, who's always fun to watch.
But I'm always way more excited for seeing some live fights.
Yes.
Yeah, man,
we will be at unmistakably.
We'll
be rewatching it. We'll be watching a replay because we'll be at Fight For It.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll see you guys at Fight For It. If not, we'll see you back here next week on the 10-8 Fightcast. Until then, enjoy yourselves and the fights.